Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk episode number 91, your Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I am your agreeable host, Scott Botman, and we have got a jam packed episode for you this session. So I'm going to jump right into it and introduce my co host, Mr. Derek Marsh. Derek, how is it going, sir?
I feel like I just saw you, Scott, and it was because we just hung out last weekend when you made the trek, up
Hey, hey!
to my house in Lexington, Kentucky, along with Nathan and a couple other friends of yours out of the Carolina. We had a bunch of people come in
Yep,
from East Coast to West Coast, all the
yeah.
way in for Star Trek CCG US Nationals that I got to host. So good to see you again, bud. Hopefully you had a good time, and hopefully the trip up and down was good.
Oh, I had a great time. I went 1-5 on day one, and then I went like and a bajillion on day two. But I had some good luck in the sealed deck tournament, so at least I didn't finish last place in every tournament. But yeah, shout out to Big Mike, Moody, and MVB, and Robin, and all the whole crew. And congratulations to Jared Magato Hoffman for winning first place in both Saturday's event and Sunday's event. So good
But
job,
you did
Jared.
beat him in the sealed event, though.
I
So
did beat him in the sealed event, but you know who I didn't beat at all that weekend? Why, our man of 1,000 nicknames, the gooey chewy, Mr. Dave Phil Cloney, Nathan Miracle. Nathan, how's it going for you over there in the Queen City?
It's going great over here. And Scott, I just want to say, I beat you. Ha
You,
ha.
you, you did, yes. You beat me
last
rather
time,
soundly.
last time we had nationals, I won both the first edition and second edition versions of the games. I won nationals in Kentucky, but didn't beat you in either version of the game. You were my sole loss in both versions.
Yep, I played
Um,
the spoiler because I knew what you were up to both times around. This
yeah,
time, though, here in 2022, I didn't do any kind of pre-study, and it showed. I spent too much time working on Big Mike's deck and helping Moody work on his decks, and they both did much better than me. So I guess in a way, I helped new players or newer players do better.
yeah,
We'll just
yeah.
go with that.
Yeah,
but
keep telling yourself that. Now, I didn't get first place this time. I got third place though, and that
got the
was
red
a lot
shirt.
of fun.
Got the red shirt.
Got the red shirt
Yep.
that says place on the back. Um,
And it's okay. You guys are all winners because you all got to go to Bucky's for the first time. So
that's true.
Yes.
Twice.
oh, you guys did
Oh,
stop on the way back?
We
oh
stopped
my
on the
God.
way back too.
On the way back, I finally got one of those kolaches.
Kolaches? Yes.
Kolaches?
Amazing,
Oh,
aren't they?
dude,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
they were good.
after I ate it, I was like, "Curse you, Bucky! Now, why do you have to be 3 hours away from my house? Now I want another one of these." Oh, yeah. Anyway, we haven't discovered the wonder of Bucky's here in North Carolina just yet, but there is one in Florence, which is very close to where Moody lives. So we'll just have to have a Star Trek tournament down there, so we can have an excuse to go back to Bucky's. But we're
Yes,
not here to
absolutely.
talk about truck stops or Star Trek. We're here to talk about Star Wars. And specifically, we're here to talk about the Star Wars information that just came flooding out of D23 this past weekend. So this is our Star Wars D23 extravaganza. So yeah,
We don't have cool
yes,
sound effects. We have to make our own.
I need the horn. Anyway, yeah. So, man, guys, we got like Star Wars programming out the wazoo confirmed for like the next year and a half almost. Derek, I'll let you kick it off. By starting, I guess, just give us the overview. What all was announced, and then we're not going to go into every single detail, gang, because this episode would end up being like 400 hours long if we did. But we will hit the highlights. So, Derek, what are our big points here?
The biggest highlight was the Simpsons cinematic universe was announced, and then 10 seconds later, it was canceled.
Okay, I missed that.
Yes, you have to
Well,
watch it.
10 seconds later, it was canceled, apparently, Nathan.
Yes,
So, I
it
mean,
was started by Homer and canceled by Kevin Feige. So,
All right,
but,
well, good podcast, guys. Guess that's it.
Good show, everyone. Good show.
no, obviously the biggest thing that we got. I mean, obviously there was tons of just Disney stuff in general, right? Obviously Marvel was the big show too, and then when they got to Star Wars, just a lot of good stuff that fans have been waiting for. The biggest thing that we kind of anticipated in our last thing that we felt like that they wouldn't do was the movies, which they didn't even talk about movies. So we figured that, right? They'll save that for next year.
Yeah.
But the big, I mean, they had a ton of trailers. The big one, we'll kick off right off the guys, which is what we started the show based off of, was Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
So, half of that trailer was probably some stuff that we kind of were teased a little bit already with, the Death Watch, and we kind of knew we were going to get a bit more of the, the retaking or the rebirth, or however they're going to phrase it with, back to Mandalore. But we got some really cool stuff. Some new footage, specifically, the conversation initially about with Bo-Katan and Din Djarin. We got a little bit of that, so that was kind of exciting, right? So already you can tell there's a bit of conflict, right, which we kind of
Yeah.
anticipated, because Bo-Katan's the purist, or the royalty, or whatever she wants to phrase, right? And she feels like, all of the cult of what the Din Djarin's clan is about is what destroyed Mandalorian, essentially, tore him apart. So you already know there's some good riff there.
Yeah, and then of course the armorer was once again in this trailer reminding Din that according to her and all of the other members of the cohort, well, not that there are that many left, Din is no longer truly a Mandalorian because he has removed his helmet and so forth. So, Paz, Vizsla, and friends are all like, "No, you don't count as a Mando anymore." But then Bo-Katan is all like, "You people and your cult are the main problem." Nathan, what I really want to see from a season 3 of The Mandalorian is a good Mandalorian Civil War kind of arc, and this trailer helped me think that I'm definitely going to get that. What about the stuff that you're hoping to see in Mando season 3? Did the trailer reinforce those ideas, or now maybe you're not sure that they're going to go with what you were hoping to see?
Well, there's only one thing that I was hoping to see, and this trailer did not give any hint that we might see it, and that is a little helmet for Grogu.
Oh yes, that would be so awesome. Yeah, although maybe there was a hint because I think it was Bo-Katan is talking to Grogu at one point, and she says, "Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?" So a hint that she's expanding, his Grogu's experience with Mandalorians. Maybe that will lead to him being an official foundling and getting his own armor. Wouldn't that be wild?
It would be wild, and that's really all I want to see. They can have their civil war. They can have the
Mhm.
big fight over who's going to lead Mandalore and what Mandalore's future is going to look like. But baby Grogu is where it's at.
Yes, and I got to see one thing specifically in the trailer that I was hoping to see because we'd heard rumors about it, and that is, hey, Babu Frick,
Yeah, Babu
baby!
Frick.
Yes,
I was so excited to see Babu Frick.
yes.
Now, I did have one question from the trailer, and that is, we see Grogu in the pod thing behind Din Djarin, and then we see him in the cockpit too. So what I'm trying to figure out is, did they build a little tunnel where
I
he
think they
can?
did. I really think they did because it's too easy for him to be like squeezing back and forth, and they don't need the droid connections, so they probably just removed all that, and boom, tunnel for Grogu.
Well, you say that, but we do see a droid in the ship later in the trailer,
Oh yeah, that's true.
and it looks
But
like the same one that blew its motivator.
Well, we
But I
definitely
wonder.
know that because we see it, because Amy Sedaris makes her cameo appearance there, so we know we're going to get more of Pella. So that's exciting.
Yeah, well, Pelimonto is leaning on R5 in that shot, right? It's R5 is the guy who blew his motivator, and then
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
apparently, yeah.
yeah.
I wonder
So
though if R5 is just a passenger and he's not actually astromeching it, because obviously the ship doesn't need an astromech to go to lightspeed.
No, but it would still help him in piloting, right? I mean, it would still be that extra, like trying to get through the asteroid fields or anything like that, or the debris that they kind of
Maybe.
show you, right? That it would be better to have the droid where he can, So I'm guessing that'll be part of the conversation where Pella basically says, "I've got the best astromech droid in the world. I've got R5 here," right? She
And
tries
then
to
he
tell
goes,
him off, and then he blows up when he makes his grand entrance, right? That's what I'm expecting to happen. So.
that would be awesome. That'd be a great callback. All right,
100%
cool.
guaranteed to have never blown his motivator.
Crossblade blows motivator.
This new one I'm going to
Uh,
install. That new motivator.
yeah. The next one. Yeah,
So,
good times, good times. Yeah, well, I'm excited about that, Nathan. Hopefully, you're going to get your Grogu in armor scene. But Nathan, you're probably also even more excited about the next trailer we're going to talk about here from D23, and that is an animated project. So your Dave Filoni vibes are tingling there. Tales of the Jedi, which appears to be a collection of shorts that are focused on Dooku on one side and Ahsoka on the other. So, oh man, for Clone Wars fans such as yourself, this is like catnip. What did you think of that trailer, Nathan?
So you're right that this is split into two different sequences with Dooku and Ahsoka. It looks like the Dooku ones are from prior to the Phantom Menace, when he's still part of the Jedi Order, and Qui-Gon Jinn is his apprentice, and we're going to see a little bit of the conflict between them. Um, so in Attack of the Clones, Dooku tells Obi-Wan, not to be so sure that Qui-Gon Jinn would never have joined him, because remember, Qui-Gon Jinn was my Padawan. But from this, it looks like maybe Qui-Gon Jinn would not have been on board at all.
Yeah,
Um,
it appears there's some good conflict there between master and apprentice, where at one point Dooku like throws Qui-Gon across the field.
but who did Dooku apprentice to? Was that Windu?
No, I
No,
believe that's Yoda.
no.
No, they're just. Was it Yoda? Okay.
In Attack of the Clones, Yoda calls him my old Padawan.
Well,
Now,
I
that's
figured
not
there
to
was
say-
that.
Yeah,
Go
that's not to say that he was never taught by Mace Windu either, because after all, in Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan says that Yoda is the Jedi who trained me, and that's only kind of sort of true.
It's true from a
From
certain,
a certain
point of
point
view.
of
Well, that's the thing. Like Yoda does all the younglings, so at some point he
Mhm.
probably did, but it doesn't mean that he was the one-on-one, master teacher apprentice type deal at the end. So, but-
I always got the impression that they did have that one-on-one relationship, because I don't think the younglings would be considered Padawans of Yoda.
Yeah, don't
no,
you
they're
actually have to
typically
get-
not.
You have to get promoted from youngling
Yeah.
to Padawan, right?
You do,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but you could still say that, right? And
But
to
I
be
bel-
fair,
I
there was
believe-
missions when like Ahsoka went with Yoda too, right? Like she still calls him master all the time, right? Even though it wasn't like,
Because
and he's like,
a
and he says,
master.
and he says like, yeah, my young Padawan, right? He calls her a Padawan at that time too.
But I
So-
do believe there is a novel out there that Dooku is officially Yoda's Padawan at one
Yeah.
point in time.
well, we do
hopefully-
see a young Yoda anyways with hair.
We do, yeah. Yoda with hair. Oh, I'm tripping out.
Hopefully, these episodes will help clarify some of that. And so I'm very excited about the Dooku episodes.
Yes.
The Ahsoka episodes, I'm not as excited about. And it's not that I don't love Ahsoka. I do. She's a great character. But we kind of know her arc up until the Ahsoka series. And I don't know that we need more of her time. It appears to be set primarily between the trilogies.
Well,
Um,
I mean, there is footage of her as Snips, if you will, learning how to do stuff with Anakin as a teacher. So that's obviously before episode 3. But I'm
Yeah,
like
but
you. I feel like we've seen a whole lot of Ahsoka training under Anakin before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
need
guessing
baby
that's a
Ahsoka.
flashback. My guess, if I can make a prediction here, is that scene is a flashback where she's remembering how she protected herself against the clones during Order 66 and how she learned how to do that from Anakin, which is very hilarious to me that she would learn how to defend herself against the clones attacking from the guy who helped initiate the attack of the clones upon the Jedi.
Yes. Called irony.
I like the part of the movie when I say the name of the movie. All right. So also though, we get to see footage of Ahsoka at Padme's funeral, which is just like, I understand we don't really need footage of Padme's funeral. We all know that she died. We saw the funeral procession in episode 3.
She did?
Spoiler alert. But like, as a fan of Ahsoka and Padme, I kind of like that we have that bookend. That Ahsoka did make her way to the funeral, even though she wasn't part of the Jedi Order anymore at that point. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's no value in getting these episodes, but I just don't know that
Well,
this
that's what,
was
6
is the
episodes,
best
right?
use.
It's six.
Six. Yeah, six.
Yeah. So we're gonna get quote unquote 3 of Dooku and 3 of Ahsoka. Like,
Right.
I'm excited. Like Nathan is about Dooku. Like getting him because we only get so much from
Right.
Christopher Lee in the movies, and then obviously we get a decent amount from the Clone Wars. But again, you get it from a different perspective, right? You're getting him because he's the Separatist. You don't get to see Dooku's side of the story, right? And that's
Yeah.
where I'm really excited for this. But like we've talked about, I don't need more Ahsoka. We've got enough. You're flooding it with it. And that, to me, it's like, okay, now that we're getting the later, it's like Star Trek. Like, I need later Star Trek. I don't need before Star Trek. So
Yeah.
get me to continue where the story's at, which I'm super excited for. Live Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, all the stuff that they're going to do with that. But I don't need background Ahsoka anymore. We've had 140 some episodes from Clone Wars, including some of the best Star Wars ever done in season 7. I'm okay with moving on from Ahsoka and just going forward into the future with her. So,
Well, like you just mentioned, not only do we have all that pre-existing Ahsoka stuff, but we're getting Ahsoka's her own individual live-action series. I mean, at certain point we could have a little bit of Ahsoka overload here.
yeah,
I
you could
know
have given me
that's
Quinlan
possibly-
Voss or Qui-Gon. I mean, they could have given us
Yeah.
anything. Even Mace Windu would have been really cool to see, right? So,
Yeah. Lord knows
Anyways.
Sam Jackson is up for being Mace again. He asks about it like every other month.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
anyway.
think, while I think he'd prefer a live action Mace Windu, I think he'd be fine doing a voiceover for
Yeah.
a pre. I don't know if it's him doing the voice for Mace Windu in Dooku's section or not, but
Probably not. It's probably the guy who did it in the Clone Wars.
yeah, that's probably true.
Anyways.
Obviously, it's not Christopher Lee doing Dooku.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, talking about Ahsoka.
Yeah, speaking of Ahsoka, at
And Ezra.
D23, we got a cool photograph of Rosario Dawson in character as Ahsoka. So a new image from the live action Ahsoka series
with a lightsaber.
with a white lightsaber and a beautiful, like, it looks like she's standing in a field with cherry blossoms behind her. It looks really cool, very Japanese samurai inspired image of Ahsoka. I love it. I mean, it's awesome. If I had it at a better aspect ratio, I'd probably make it my desktop background for a while. But yeah, so she's not the only animated Star Wars character making the jump to live action in her show. We also got to see Ezra Bridger being brought to life by Derek. Take it away, because I can't say this guy's name.
Would have been Aman Esfandi.
Iman Esfandi, easy for you to say. He is joining the Disney Plus show, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Iman was not present at D23, but this all basically came out that weekend, so it was a big news point. Actually, I think this was a big news point the day before D23 officially happened.
Yeah, it
so
was
this
on
is
Friday.
the guy. Yeah, a Friday.
It was it was before the Star Wars stuff, but it was
Yeah.
Friday when D23 first kicked off.
Yeah, so his film credits include Robert Rodriguez's horror film Red 11, which I have not seen, and a small role in the Best Picture nominee King Richard from a few years back. And then there is an upcoming gay military drama called The Inspection that he is in that has gotten some good reviews at the Toronto Film Festival. But other than that, I don't think he has a huge presence yet. So I kind of like that because, as we've talked about many times, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher weren't really household names before they got cast in Star Wars. So this usually turns out well for Star Wars character actors to not really have much of a career, and then Star Wars is their breakout role. No offense
But he
to what John
looks like
Boyega.
Ezra though.
He does look like Ezra. He does, definitely.
Oh, very much so.
He's
Like
got the
Ezra
hair
in his
and,
30s, right? So
yeah, and the
he's
facial
younger.
structure. Yeah, he looks. Yeah, we talk a lot about how live action isn't always going to look exactly like the animated version of the character, but this guy.
But then there's this.
Yeah, this guy, he's got it, man. I mean, yeah. So, best of luck to him and congratulations to him. That's a pretty good get, as they say in the business. So Star Wars can make or break your career. So I think this will be great for him.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he's played in Road 11. Just feels like he should be at the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah. I see what you did there. It's his call sign.
Mhm.
All right, cool. So, speaking of which, do you guys think that the presence of Ezra in the Ahsoka series and this image we see of Rosario. Nathan, I'll go back to you here. Do you think this reinforces that you're gonna get to see what you were hoping in the Ahsoka series, like as far as Rebels characters returning, or is this going in a different direction, or what?
Well, the last time we saw Ezra in the cartoon, he went off with Thrawn,
Space
and
whales.
yeah, space whales. Sabine and Ahsoka are looking for Ezra, and obviously we're going to see Ezra, whether they find him at the start of the series or the end of the season, or however they do it. They're going to find him. And who is he with? He's with Thrawn,
Yeah.
and we know Ahsoka was looking for Thrawn. So clearly, we're going to get some Thrawn here.
So do
So
you
yes,
think? Do you guys think if Nathan? Do you think if we find Ezra with Thrawn, do you think Ezra is turned in any way?
Ooh, Dark Side Ezra. Oh,
I'm not saying full fledged dark. I'm going to the point where Thrawn can persuade him to do things, that would be, I wouldn't say to the light side, but wouldn't necessarily also be to the dark side. More of that gray Jedi line, but maybe a little bit darker.
I'm almost hoping that they pick up elements of the original Thrawn trilogy. We know that they're working on cloning technology. It's entirely possible that Thrawn could have found a way to clone Ezra,
oh my gosh,
and
that
then we
would be
get
yes.
Ezra
Like
with two A's or or
what?
what?
Now,
Louise
okay,
Ezra.
Ezra. So here's what. Now that you've said that, Nathan, my fanboy fan fiction brain is like spiraling out of control. What I want to happen is Ahsoka and Sabine find Ezra, adult Ezra, in the first episode. They go to the Outer Rim. They find like the first lead they get. Jackpot, Ezra. Oh my gosh! But then, like the next episode, he's acting a little weird, and then they're talking about him when he's not around. They're like, "Well, it has been many years, and he's been living a hard life out here in the unknown regions. Maybe Well, but then in the season finale, it turns out that the Ezra we met at the beginning was a clone, and the real Ezra is like knocked out unconscious somewhere, and Thrawn's like making copies of him, and he's got like a whole army of Ezras, and then Sabine and Ahsoka have to stop that and defeat Thrawn and rescue the real Ezra.
And of course, the fake Ezra is using a particular lightsaber because, as we know, how Maz got Anakin's lightsaber is a great story for another
Oh
time.
yes! Oh man, and that would be a nice callback to Heir to the Empire, the original Thrawn trilogy, in which Luke has the blue lightsaber because he was cloned from the hand. That would be awesome.
And then at the end, Ahsoka can give it to Maz for safekeeping, and we close the loop of this is how Anakin's lightsaber got back to where it was in the.
But does
Skywalker
this
saga.
also give us a Mara Jade cameo finally?
Could be. She could be working with Thrawn in the outer unknown regions.
I say an Easter egg, like a cameo, not a plot relevant thing.
Yeah.
I think George Lucas famously hates Mara Jade, and I know that George
Lucas
Lucas
doesn't own it anymore, so
That's
I-
true. George
it
is not
in.
involved much anymore.
I know that's
or do
true,
we get an Erica cameo?
but at the same time, Dave Filoni highly respects George Lucas's opinions, so I think he would say we're not doing the Mara Jade thing.
Well, so I don't think we'll get an Arika cameo, Derek, because she was dancing at Jabba's palace, and Ahsoka's series
Correct.
takes place after Jabba's.
Correct. But that would be the cameo where Erica's doing some type of espionage in the underworld. That what I'm saying. We're like, oh, here's our next dancer, Erica, and we get like a
okay.
snippet, and that's it. Like you don't even really get to see her. Like you just see the back of her head or something like that, and you see
And
the
you,
red
you
hair.
see the red hair,
Yeah,
Yes.
and,
then we
people
move
like
on.
us are going, "Oh my gosh!"
yeah. And she's just dancing at some Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, it's
club
like
or
some
something.
underworld
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
okay,
they're trying to
cool.
do.
Yeah, hey, I'm in. I would accept it. All right, cool. So also at the show at D23, we got a little bit of information about Jude Law's new Star Wars project. I gotta admit, guys, this is more of a kids show, I think, and I haven't paid that much attention.
But it
to
is live action.
It is live action. So Star Wars Skeleton Crew live action show where Jude Law is, I don't know, somehow in charge of these kids as part of the New Republic. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
Derek,
Millie
give us.
Bobby Brown is in there, so
Oh wow. Okay, give us the rundown, Derek.
I mean, that's really just kind of they don't go into a whole lot. I mean, it's basically just talking about in the interview, Jude Law's like talking about how it's like, hey, I grew up loving Star Wars and this is such a dream come true type deal thing, right? I
Hmm.
mean, again, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping that if it is like a kid show, we get kind of callbacks to like the Ewok movies
Yeah, oh yeah,
because
that'd be great.
that would be what I'm looking forward to if they'd end up doing it. Give me campy, cheesy stuff, but do it with as much as you can with practical effects, and that is not all cheap CGI.
Mhm.
And I'm excited for it, right? I mean, like I said, I'm more excited that it's live action. Like I said, I know we were kind of up. We thought it might have been live action. We thought maybe it was a cartoon, that type of stuff. And actually, Jude Law, at least at this point, is going to be playing the good guy. He's not playing the bad guy. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, give me that cheap '80s, kid Star Wars cheese live action stuff, and I'm all over it. So.
We once it comes out, we'll have to see if we can get friend of the show and Star Wars Ewok adventure actor uh, Eric on to take a look at it. Eric Walker to come and look at it with us and talk about it, comparing it to his kids show Star Wars experience. I think that'd be a lot of fun to get his perspective on that.
Yeah.
Uh, Nathan, what are your thoughts about Skeleton Crew as a project? I mean, do you want to see Jude Law like? Obviously, he's like mentor. Are we hoping he's like a force wielding mentor, or is this going to be no force involved?
I,
'Cause-
I'm hoping no force. Yeah, all blasters, no force.
okay,
We get a whole lot of force centric, lightsaber wielding centric Star Wars content. It's nice every once in a while to get something that doesn't have lightsabers attached to it.
Rogue One.
Rogue
Rogue
One,
One. Yep, and
Solo.
Solo. Yeah,
Uh,
and I feel like Andor is going to be a series that doesn't really have a lot of lightsabers.
yeah,
It'll
I mean,
be awesome.
Yeah,
within the universe, lightsabers are supposed to be rare. Force users are like there's maybe a couple per planet,
yeah, and some
and,
people go
and
their
yet,
whole lives never seeing a lightsaber.
yeah, and yet we see them all the time in the storytelling. And this show is supposed to be set 9 after the Battle of Yavin, so that's fairly shortly after Return of the Jedi,
Couple
Oh, I
years.
thought
Yeah.
a
this
few
was
years.
I thought this was going to be set after the Rise of Skywalker. Okay, I was way off.
No, it's
It's the form of the New Republic.
Okay,
yeah, it's close to Mandalorian season 1.
okay,
And
okay.
in fact, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we got some sort of Mandalorian cameo, like we see some Mandalorian fight that happened, from somebody else's perspective, like they're walking through a planet and Mando just blows through and you know, does the I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold line, and everybody's like, don't go near him, just keep walking. Um, yeah. So at that time, Force users very rare. I would not like to see one, or if we do have one, maybe have one of the kids be kind of a nascent. I'm just discovering how to use the Force, and every once in a while, something strange happens near me
Broom Boy.
because I'm
But it'd be earlier.
yeah
Yes.
Broom Boy or almost like Grogu, where it's like, oh yeah, every once in a while I'll do the magic hand thing, but when you ask me to,
Not when you ask me to. I'll just wave. So speaking now that I know when it's set, I'm almost willing to put money down on a Grogu cameo, because if it's a kids show, you're going to want Baby Yoda there to get the kids' attention. So I could see these kids with Jude Law and the Skeleton Crew group meeting up with Mando and specifically Grogu. Maybe even just Grogu. Like he's getting into mischief and Mando's
Well,
like just
it's technically before Mando gets Grogu, though.
okay.
In
Then
theory, I mean, they
It-
can do
it-
whatever
never
they want,
mind.
but in
it,
theory,
it depends on how
Yeah.
long the
Yeah.
time frame is on the season, because I could see like later in the season them being on the planet where they meet Cara Dune, and
Yeah.
Grogu walks off and has a little adventure with them, and we see the back of Mando's head as he says some line that he said in that episode, but then Grogu goes off and does his own thing with the kids.
Navarro. is the planet where they
Yes.
met Cara Dune. Although I could
No.
actually see this.
What's that? Navarro?
Pretty sure it's Navarro.
Oh, yeah, they were both there. Well, no, he met Cara Dune
The
in
the
that
one
wilderness planet.
with the
He met
ATS.
He met
You
Grief
mean? Yeah,
Karga.
I got you. Yeah, I was thinking about where she ended up, but yes, you're
Mm.
right. He met her
Yeah, I'm
on.
thinking on that frontier town because
Yeah,
this sounds like they're kind of lost in space. So them ending up at a frontier town seems in keeping with the idea of the plot of this episode or of
yeah.
this show.
He met her on that planet with the people harvesting the blue shrimp, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
The rice fields.
Sorghum, something like that.
I don't remember.
I'd have to look it
Anyway,
up.
but
Crazy,
yeah,
crazy
okay.
to say that was like 3 years ago
I
almost.
know, right? And it's been quite a momentous 3 years, both in Star Wars and, of course, in the real world. So knowing that, that it could be overlapping with Mando, like maybe not at the beginning, but as time progresses in the Skeleton Crew story, I could actually see this being a situation where the Skeleton Crew, if they do have an adventure with Grogu, it could be while Grogu was being kept by Peli Bato. And like when Mando came back, she's all like, "Here he is. He's all safe and sound." But little did we know, 5 minutes before that, he was off like fighting stormtroopers with Jude Law and them, and she just now got him back and didn't bother to tell his dad what really happened. That'd be a lot of fun.
And also very, very in keeping with her character. You're
Yeah,
like, oh
right.
yeah, no trouble whatsoever.
Yeah, everything was fine. Kick,
Yep.
kick, kick.
So no.
Uh,
Anyways, like I said, it's live action. If it does the cheapy, campy kids show, then so be it, right? I mean, we're at the point now where they need to kind of start exploring Star Wars like they've been doing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just giving us different things in the Star Wars universe. Give us, like I said, I don't need lightsabers every day. Give us blasters, give us the spy stuff, give us kids shows. Kids shows don't even have any weapons. They can just run from bad guys and do the Goonies style, right? I mean,
yeah,
that would be
yeah,
fun
yeah.
if it was
That'd be
Goonies,
awesome. Yeah, some
you
kind of
know?
treasure hunt show in Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe throw in a little bit of Home Alone in there.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah,
they
whatever.
set up traps, but they're not.
Yeah,
not
they're
lethal.
just the
They're
distractions.
mysteriously not deadly, even though they should be deadly.
they're
Well,
Ewok style traps.
you don't even have to have them in front of the Empire, right? I mean, it could just be a bunch of bandits, right? I mean, and you could get, Marv and Joe Pesci should come over and play, right? Cameos.
Oh gosh, and Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci in Star
Yeah.
Wars would have been hysterical. Anyway, bringing that you
We're
bring up a
going
good
after the
point.
Utes.
The two youths with Jude Law. Anyway,
With a
bring up a
man calamari flan bandits.
Marv, don't go in there. Why not? It's a trap. All right, so okay. So you make a good point though about how the bad guys don't have to be the Empire, because in the Ewok adventures they weren't fighting the Empire; they were fighting the weird, like you said, the weird bandit types, and then also
Yeah,
the
whoever. I mean, you
Witch
could
of
have
Endor.
anybody be the bad guy, right? Let's be
This
honest.
would be a great chance to have one of the witches of Dathomir show up and be the bad guy, because an evil witch is a perfect kid
Oh,
story
yes.
villain, and there's your Force connection. So just minor as it may be, she's using the dark side. Witches of Dathomir, bam, it writes itself.
Yes. Or
And
if
if they're
not,
lost,
Disney hire us.
Yeah, right, exactly.
if they are actually lost in space, then Dathomir is a reasonable place for them to end up and not have any clue where they are.
Oh, they could have a whole zombie episode. So
Oh, that would be cool. But if they are lost in space, I hope they have a droid that is much more humanoid, and we get a nice, nudge, nudge, wink, wink about the original Lost in Space. Danger, kids. That would be great. And a very much a George Lucas type thing to do, because he loved to make callbacks to classic sci-fi from like the 1950s and 1960s. Okay,
Yeah.
well, one more thing to talk about that was announced at D23, and then we'll take a quick break so you guys can learn more about all the other shows here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And that is a expansion set for the Lego Skywalker Saga that's going to focus on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Derek, what's this all about?
Hold on a second. Let me make sure I'm pulling this up. So really, it's just talking about that the TV characters are coming to the Lego Star Wars game, right? So you'll be able to get the downloadable characters, and they'll have some downloadable content that's coming from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but they're also including Andor, the Book of Boba Fett, Clone Wars, Rebels, and the Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. So yes, and you can also get third sister Inquisitor Reva. So
Cool.
Reva, so a little piece of could say you've made it. Not only are you in Star Wars, but you're also in Lego Star Wars.
I like the Lego Cassian Andor that is previewed in this article that we have. Although I gotta say, with the beard and the longer
Yeah.
hair, he looks a little more like I would like. If I looked at that character, I would say, "Is that Qui-Gon Jinn?" I wouldn't think of that as Cassian.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks more like a Jedi.
And especially with the background behind him with all those trees, it almost looks like the jungles of Naboo.
Yeah,
which helps. I know there's an X-wing there, and that part doesn't look like Qui-Gon Jinn, but
I
the
think
rest
it's
of the background
supposed to
does.
be Yavin 4. I think it's supposed to be Yavin 4.
That would make sense, yeah.
But the
then,
cool thing is Captain Rex too as well.
Yeah, Nathan, what do you think about this Captain Rex minifig? Obviously hanging out at Maz's castle, so cool Legos.
I want him, but in real life.
Yeah,
he will pay the $2.99 for the downloadable content of that. So
yeah.
I don't know. I might just go to the Lego store and be like, "Hey, you have a Captain Rex I can get?"
I bet they. I bet you could. Actually, I bet you could
say.
go to Lego's website and customize him as a minifig.
Well, I was gonna say I've seen sets have Captain Rex before.
Let me do that. Hold on, I'll be back.
Nathan goes radio silent for the rest of the episode as he builds his own clone army on Lego.com.
They sell the Bad Batch. They've had the Bad Batch too. So.
They do, yeah, and they even have their starship in the box, so that's pretty cool.
So, anyways,
now
see,
the
fun.
reason I haven't done this, and the reason that I need to stop right now before I do this,
because you have a limit on your credit card.
Doing this right now anyway, it is the fact that if I start, I won't stop.
Do they have like an unlimited package where you can just pay like $20 and then get all the ones you want?
Oh man, I bet if Lego doesn't have a subscription plan, they ought to. They could make a killing with that. I bet they do.
Oh man.
Well, I've seen people on Etsy do it too, where you can make 3D prints of the Lego pieces and they'll work, but they make their own. They'll take the Lego type deal structure and 3D print it, and then they'll do it, and they sell them for like $5 a piece. So it adds up if you bought a bunch of them. But if you wanted like a specific character that Lego itself brand doesn't make for a Star Wars character, you could probably find it somewhere on Etsy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
all right, well. Speaking of being able to find cool stuff that interests you on the old interwebs, we're not the only podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We have got podcasts that are shows focusing on topics that you can't even imagine. So here we go with some promos about what other shows you can find here on the FPN.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Well, thanks very much, Kevin. Man, you sound better and better every time we play that commercial. It's uncanny. Well, anyway, guys, as you all know, no doubt, we are huge fans of Star Wars animation here at What a Piece of Junk, and we have been waiting with bated breath for some more information about the actual release date for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2. Nathan, I have been clamoring for more adventures with Clone Force 99, but I don't know if I'm gonna get it anytime this year. It was supposed to happen in September. Now it might not be till January. Tap into your Dave Filconi connections. What is the deal, Nathan?
The deal is January 4th,
Oh,
and that
okay.
deal will hold up until and unless we decide to preempt it with something else.
Oh, great.
'Cause, like you, I too have been waiting anxiously for the Bad Batch, which my understanding was supposed to be in March of this year.
Yeah,
Um,
and then
and
moved
then
to
September.
Well, didn't we have August for a little while, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
quarter two, quarter three, what they called it, right?
Yeah. And then it was supposed to be September 21st, then September 28th, so as not to interfere with Andor, and now January the 4th of 23.
So I predict we will get it.
When we get it,
Yeah, no, that was the end of the sentence. Just at some point,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
I no longer hold any hopes that this release date is any firmer than any of the previous release dates we've gotten.
so, Derek, what do you think this means? Is there something wrong with the show, or they just got too much Star Wars going on, or what?
well, no, because it's got to be something wrong with the production, or there's something that they're going to do in this that could potentially lead into something further down the line or a big spoiler of some sort. But I
Mm.
feel like it's either that or there's production issues because October 26th, we're getting the Tales of the Jedi episodes. So, and that's only in episode 9 or 10 of Andor. Like, we still have several episodes of Andor to get us all the way to the week of Thanksgiving. And then they're going to drop the Tales of the Jedi. Now, I'm guessing that'll be the 6 weeks that's going to lead right into right before Christmas, like they normally do, where that we get that week and a half or 2 weeks of silence. And then we'll get into the new year, right? And that's when we'll get Bad Batch season 2. So there's might be something maybe even in Tales of the Jedi with the Ahsoka side of the story that leads us into Bad Batch territory, right? Maybe there's something in there. So they're flipping things around to fit better based off of that. So I feel like a lot of it, and we talked about this last time, right? With Kyle, they kept delaying it. Again, it's an animation, so they can fit it a bit more because it's not as well watched, right?
Right.
So I'm guessing that was it. But like I said, I'm either guessing it's production issues or something before that's going to happen in Tales of the Jedi, or something after in the actual season of Bad Batch season 2 is going to lead into something else that they wanted to push back because it's going to be too much of a connection or spoiler to something else.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and my original thought was that they were pushing it off because it's animation and they don't care as much about it, which I was disappointed about that in the first place. But then, as you mentioned, we are getting the Tales of the Jedi, which is also animation.
Yeah.
So it's not that. And as you mentioned, they're doing Tales of the Jedi during Andor. So it's not that they just don't want it at the same time as something else. So I think my official guess as to what has happened is that D. Bradley Baker called up HR on 5 different computers for one Zoom call, but 5 screens of D. Bradley Baker, and he talked into each computer using a different one of the voices and complained that he was only getting 1 paycheck.
That would be amazing. Although you do bring up a good point. If Dee's schedule got conflicted, I mean, you can't make the show without him.
Right.
Maybe that's been the actual. There's a logistics problem there with Baker is just too busy
Yeah.
doing something else.
Could be. I know he was eagerly on Peacemaker. I don't know what else he's been in since then. I know there's a new Dan Povenmire cartoon. I don't know if he's in that or not.
Interesting.
I mentioned that because Dan Povenmire did Phineas and Ferb and also Milo Murphy's Law, and D. Bradley Baker is Perry the Platypus and Diogi in those. So I'll have to double check and see if I can see if he's the one of the characters in the new Dan Povenmire stuff.
All right. Well, while you
I'll
do that,
check on that. You guys talk about something else.
while you do that research, Derek, we got a huge Andor trailer from D23, like over 10 minutes long. Mea culpa, I didn't actually have time to watch it before we recorded this episode, so I'm going to let you talk a little bit about it, although we have talked a bit about it on the show before, because this was a lot of the same footage that Kyle got to see when he went to the special IMAX screening of Star Wars Rogue One. So, Derek, what was up with the final Andor trailer?
So we knew this was going to be somewhere in the first episode or two, where Andor gets to meet Stellan Skarsgård's character there. And I don't remember off the top of my head what his character is going to be called. But we know that he is somewhere in the political party, right? That's playing, he's obviously sounds like a war hero. So maybe somebody from the Clone Wars brought into it, right? He's kind of gone off the map radar for a while. He's come back recently, right? And so what we get the premise is that he's hired Andor to steal some secret Imperial data, and Andor brings this box, and they're in this, I don't know what city or town right on this planet, but they finally get to meet face to face, and basically Skarsgård's character is talking to Diego Luna about how he was able to do it, right? And Andor starts talking about, which we've heard in the trailer, that whole, like, the Empire, all you have to do is just walk in with confidence, and they're so overly confident themselves that nobody would dare to, steal some of their clothing, put it on, and pretend to be an Imperial because they're so fat and full of themselves type deal, spiel. So that's where you actually are hearing that Diego Luna line, right, from Andor.
Their overconfidence is their weakness.
Yes. So you get to see that. And then Skarsgård starts to talk to him about, like, how he knows who Andor is. Like, he knew that, about his father that was hung in this city or whatever when he was 6 years old or whatever, right? Which is that whole scene we get to, when Andor talks about how he's been involved with this war since he was 6 years old, which is what I'm assuming is what really prompted him to hate the Empire, right? When they hang his father. And he wants to know all this stuff. So they go into this, and then he goes black for a second, and then it jumps into all of a sudden the local magistrate or the local, they're not Imperials, or if they are, they're in that blue uniform with the gold type deal outlining.
They're more like some kind of civilian security force.
I would imagine they're local, but they could be just a branch of, we talked about, like, that could be, more Empire stuff, but maybe local or something that we never seen. Like, the Imperials and the Stormtroopers are like the actual official, and then these guys are the weekend warriors, right? And that's what their outfit's going to be, right?
Or like we learned in Solo, there's a whole different uniform and look for the Imperial Army versus the Imperial Navy. Because we see so much Navy in the movies, because Stormtroopers are technically part of the Navy. They're almost like Marines, if you will.
Yes. Yep. So anyway, so then all of a sudden they get flanked, right? And so Skarsgård and Andor have to fight out of it, right? So we get some cool action sequence and stuff like that. And they both escape. Ta-da! So, and basically then you get into again a trailer portion where it's all the snippet stuff, right? That's leading into
the highlight
Andor.
reel.
Yeah, the highlight reel type deal. And basically Skarsgård's telling Andor, I want you to come with me. So I'm guessing, like I said, this has got to happen within episode 1 or 2. I could see episode 1 leading in, again, the early life of Andor, but then that could all be flashbacks later in later episodes too. So we'll see. But I would imagine, because we definitely know that when we've seen that clip where the Star Destroyer is hovering over the planet, that forest planet, that is where Andor's actually from. That's his hometown village or whatever. That looks like they're in this, built of sticks and mud type deal. Like most of, the alien societies, they're not, living in actual giant, buildings and stuff like that. So,
Right.
anyways,
So-
so that's it.
Scott, the scene with Skarsgård and Diego Luna Andor, it Skarsgård's character is very much giving him a call to action, and you'll never guess what Andor's first reaction to that is.
He might refuse the call.
Oh, what? How did you know?
I just have these things, and occasionally
Then-
I'm
Pulls
right.
a gun out on him.
But then circumstances arise that cause Andor to go with Skarsgård. So it's almost as though they're doing a hero's journey thing. And when I say almost, I mean it is.
Cool.
I
By
expect
chance or destiny.
Indeed.
right. I expect a very faithful following of the hero's journey here.
Look, when Star Wars tries to deviate from that story, people complain about it. They're like, it doesn't feel
Absolutely.
Star Warsy, and you're like, well, okay, because it's not the hero's journey. That's why, So yeah, and I got no problem with that because Star Wars wears the hero's journey on its sleeve. Heck, Dr. Campbell reformatted the hero's journey in the 20th century due to Star Wars and the seismic effect it had on pop culture in the 20th century, and here we are in 20th century and beyond. So yeah,
So I've done my D. Bradley Baker research.
okay.
The show that I was talking about is called Hamster and Gretel.
Oh yes,
And
On Disney Plus.
it's on Disney Plus. D. Bradley Baker does not star in it, but he does provide additional voices.
Is he
There's
the
also-
hamster?
He is not the hamster. The hamster can talk.
Oh,
So-
okay. Then yeah, never
So
mind.
there's somebody else who voices the hamster.
The
with-
cousin
with
of the
actual
hamster.
speaking lines. I'm sorry.
He's probably the cousin, the lead hamster's cousin.
Prob-
Sure, the main
Probably.
cousin can talk. The
Actually.
main hamster can talk, but all the other cousins and family can't.
It's
Ah.
like Plankton over on SpongeBob. He's a genius, but the rest of his family is all a bunch of country bumpkin morons.
Well, speaking of SpongeBob, I looked at D. Bradley Baker's IMDb page, and well, he has a whole laundry list of things that he's in
yep.
that didn't all start in 2022, but all have continued at least until this year. So it may well be that he's just really busy with
Yeah.
things like the Patrick Star Show.
Yep. There's your SpongeBob connection. Good times. Okay.
Well,
Well,
but to be fair, though, just to answer your question, though, Nathan, D. Bradley Baker is getting a ton of that Disney money. Let's be honest. He's getting plenty of Disney money.
Well, he was in the Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation
Mhm.
as 3 different characters: Boba Fett, BVRJ, and Wicket. So
He must just have like a permanent
Wow.
paycheck coming in from them.
yeah, he's just on
I think
retainer.
so.
Yeah.
I think so, actually. He's been in a lot of stuff this year and forever, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nice.
And a
Well-
lot of it is Disney.
I did skip one very important D23 news snippet related to Star Wars. So, Derek, we're going to jump back to talk about something that you really wanted to talk about. The folks at Going to Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland in California are going to get to see people from outside the sequel trilogy era. Well, I guess I should say they're going to get to see people from outside the era between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Because technically this character is part of the sequel trilogy era because that's all post Return of the Jedi. But Derek, I'll let you spill the beans here as to which live action character is going to be walking around the park.
It was only a matter of time, guys. Let's be honest. If it wasn't for COVID, this would have happened sooner. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
definitely.
Right? I mean, this probably would have happened within the first year for how much money his merchandise has made them.
Merchandising.
No,
is-
he's Joker's from the wrong series.
So, well, he's a tiny little green being. So, yes, we are finally going to get Grogu and his pet Din Djarin to accompany him and actually visit guests at the Disneyland Park Galaxy's Edge in 2023.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
finally, so
great. I think that's
they're
great.
gonna break timeline finally, like we talked about that they should have done already, and designed it so that they could have done, like we said, prequel, original, and sequel eras all throughout the year at certain points, and they've been able to rotate it, and it made them tons of money. So
Yeah.
more money
Now,
than they would have already gotten.
however, I'm interested to note that at D23 on stage, Jon Favreau introduced Mandalorian and Grogu. So there's a guy dressed as Mando, and he has Grogu in a little satchel that he's carrying. So probably obviously an animatronic, maybe even a puppet, right? Depending on how his arms are arranged into costume. So you're going to be able to interact with Grogu, as you walk around the park. But I noticed that Favreau specifically said it's going to be at Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and did not say it will be at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And guys, I think that's very intentional. Obviously, it's intentional, but the reason is the hotel exists in Orlando, not in Anaheim. And so therefore,
Yet at least.
right. And so therefore you've got the whole immersive experience thing that you can choose at Galaxy's Edge in Orlando, where you need to be able to stay in the right point of the timeline for your whole RPG LARPing thing to make sense. So I don't know if we will see Mando in Orlando at any point until they reformat the storylines that they're doing for the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. What do you think, Greg?
I don't think that would have anything to do with it, because let's be fair, if you go out anywhere in Galaxy's Edge in the park, you're going to interact with other guests that aren't going to be LARPing, right? So that's going to totally take you out of it. The whole point when you're in the Halcyon, you're paying that $6,000 for 48 hours of complete LARPing, and you don't really interact with other guests anyways that whole time. You're literally just interacting every 30 minutes with a paid actor, paid professional that's under the Disney employment.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, you do take excursions to Galaxy's Edge when you're
but
staying
they can get you behind the scenes and all that stuff. They can get you through secret tunnels and secret access ways. It's not to say that I'm not saying you wouldn't walk outside and see other guests, but again, if you're going to try to be that full thing, you're going to see somebody wearing a Disney outfit or street clothes, right?
Sure,
so it's kind of like,
but any Star Wars character you meet would be from the time of the Resistance versus the First Order.
Correct.
If you met Mando, unless they just want to blow it out and say, "Oh, Mando's still around; he's still doing his thing."
Well, but I'm saying, but you could easily work that where they totally walk, like if Mando could just be on one side of the park that doesn't get touched by the Halcyon activities, right? And because let's be honest, once he's out there, there's going to be such a huge line for them to take pictures. Yeah, it's going to be its own princess line.
My understanding, though, is that when you go to Galaxy's Edge from the Halcyon, that the only times that they really control are you get there at this time and be back to the shuttle at this time.
Right, yeah.
And you guide yourself around Galaxy's Edge.
See, so then they're not even, but so then that's what I'm saying. So at that point, it doesn't really matter because you could have somebody doing whatever at that point. Like I said, you're not going to be, you're out in the park at that point. So it's supposed to be like, here's your time to go do what you want. Like all LARPing rules are off the thing, right?
No, all LARPing rules are not off. You get a little pin that identifies you as staying at.
Correct. With the park people. Yeah.
Well, but that's what we're talking about is if there's somebody who's walking around dressed as the Mandalorian with Grogu, he is a park person.
But I'm telling you, they won't let him walk around because he won't be able to.
Maybe
they'll literally, because they don't even walk Chewie. I mean, granted, it's COVID, but they don't even let Rey or Chewie walk around. They've started to do a little bit of that, and they've let Kylo, but then they have like the park police that are around. You can't really interact with them. You can do that outside of Galaxy's Edge when they have like the little tours and parades and stuff like that. You see, but in Galaxy's Edge, you don't get to really interact with them at all. I mean, granted, now that's been since COVID's been out, which has been a majority of it, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, but Mando with Grogu, that is its own Disney princess line. I'm telling you guys right now. They won't
Yeah,
be
that's
able
its
to
own
walk around.
attraction. That's definitely its own attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have fast passes and wait times to get your photo with him. But I was just
Yeah.
trying to rationalize why this is only happening in Anaheim and not happening in Orlando, because that seems weird. And that was
But
what I
no,
was thinking.
but it's no
Oh.
different than the hotel.
I
True.
can
Yeah,
give
the
you
hotel
a
goes the
possible
other way
reason.
around. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
possible reason is that may be an animatronic Grogu, and they may only have one of those.
Or
And
they're
they've-
testing it to see if it works in the admittedly smaller park.
Mhm.
And then if it does, then they may build another one to take to Florida.
Yeah.
But
Would
it may
be
be
really
like
cool.
a trial run.
It'd be really cool if they actually had like a guy sitting up in the tower somewhere that like where Din is standing at, and they had the remote control, right? And he's actually
That-
able to have like a
That would be
microphone,
cool.
and when
Yeah.
somebody asks him a question, the kid, the Grogu's like,
Grogu
Well, you
can
don't
turn
even have
his
to.
head.
You don't even have to be up in the tower. What they used to do in Dinoland USA in Animal Kingdom, they had an animatronic dinosaur that was walking around, and there was and it was like hauling a cart, like a rickshaw, and there was a guy driving the rickshaw that surreptitiously controlled the dinosaur. But like it would talk, the dinosaur would talk to you and stuff. So they could do the same thing. Just have somebody with Grogu, with Mandalorian, who looks like another bounty hunter or whatever, but that person's actually controlling the Grogu puppet.
Or have cameras set up,
Yeah.
like in the Mandalorian's armor or the animatronics itself.
Yeah.
Cameras and microphone to where somebody who's not even anywhere close, like sitting back in the back of Disney's offices.
Yeah.
Going, okay.
Well,
Have them look
and
up here. Have them look up there.
The other thing they could do too, depending on what it is, they could do the same thing they've done with Figment for all that time. Actually have
Yeah.
a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
because Grogu
yeah.
doesn't have to say anything. Let's be honest. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be animatronic. We know it's Grogu, but that could exactly be it. To your guys' point, and like I said, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a Disney Princess line for hours to get in.
Oh,
get
yeah.
your picture with it.
You'll get
So.
Genie app to get
Yeah,
your
Genie
photo.
Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genie Plus. Yeah, thank you. It's something like that. Microtransactions of doom. All right. Anyway. Okay. Well, guys, we have once again killed a whole hour talking about Star Wars. So go us. But before we bug out, we got to talk about Derek's favorite part of the show, and that is what Star Wars T-shirts are we wearing this week? Derek, what Star Wars threads have you got on?
Well, since again, we got a bunch of stuff at D23. I had a lot of choices to pick from. And I'm like, I can wear this shirt, that shirt, and this shirt. But I went with the big thing that we just finished up talking about. Went with a good little go OG Mando and Baby Grogu.
Aw, cute. Chibi Grogu is so awesome. He is adorable. So I think that's actually pretty much callback to season 1 Mando too.
Yeah, that's with him chasing the frog, right? So
Yep.
Yep. Season 1 is frogs. Season 2 is eggs.
Yep. Although they are
season
frogs'
3
eggs,
is
so-
what? More
Season 3
macaroons?
No, I'm gonna predict season 3 has something to do with like trying to eat a baby bantha.
Oh gosh, that would be big.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna be the whole joke. Is that Grogu is gonna be all like,
sucking on
and the
its
thing's
toe."
bigger than his head,
It's like, how do you
Alright.
eat a whale? One bite at a time.
That's right. How do you eat a land shark?
Well, I
Land
say
shark.
land shark. There you go.
Nathan, what Star Wars T-shirt do you have on?
All right. Well, in honor of Dave Filoni, I am wearing my Wolfpack T-shirt
Oh, nice.
with the Loth Wolf on it. Now, I was wearing this T-shirt a couple weeks ago now, actually, when I had a DoorDash person come to drop off some food, and they asked, "Oh, hey, are you an NC State fan?" And I just gave them the blankest look because I had no idea what they were talking about. And then I realized, oh yeah, my shirt
Wolfpack.
does say Wolfpack,
Yeah.
but this is not it. No, this is
Filthy
not NC State.
casuals. All right.
What do they confuse me is they're red.
Yeah, and that
This
shirt's
is not.
predominantly blue. Yeah.
But hey, there's a complete marketing opportunity right there, right?
Oh, that would be so
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
All right,
if,
Scott,
hey, if the Charlotte Knights can do it with the lightsaber crossover, then the Wolfpack
Sure.
should be able to do it, right?
Scott, what are you wearing today?
All right, so we're not quite to October yet, but I still consider September to be spooky season. So I'm wearing a old school Galactic Civil War era Imperial Stormtrooper helmet on my shirt, but it is orange. And if you look closely, you can see that it is made up of teeny tiny jack-o'-lanterns, all arranged in piles to make a Stormtrooper helmet. So this is one of the coolest crossover holiday Star Wars shirts I ever saw. So I only get to wear it like 2 months out of the year, so I'm going to wear it as much as possible here in the spooky season. So, yeah. And of course, if you guys out there listening to the show want a cool What a Piece of Junk t shirt, please go check out our shop at the T Public store. Head on over to tpublic.com and just search up the Fandom Podcast Network, and you can find t shirts, coffee mugs, iPad cases, phone cases, all that cool stuff for not only What a Piece of Junk, but any of those other awesome shows that we have here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And speaking of the FPN, Derek, can you let folks know where they can find the show out there on the internet?
So we talk about it all the time. The big thing is going to the master feed of Podbean. So go to podbean.com and search for us. Type in What a Piece of Junk or a Star Wars podcast, and hopefully we get enough likes that that Nathan will talk about here in a minute, that we pop up somewhere at the top. I'm sure we're not at the tippy top because that's the really well-known Star Wars podcast, but we're inching our way, hopefully.
Yeah.
But you can hopefully find us on other podcast platforms, which is iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you can go and download podcasts, you can find us there. So
Awesome. And we're also on Facebook. Derek runs our Facebook group, which is What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. You can email us between shows. I'll check that account. It is whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com. And I do run the show's Twitter at What Wars. And on Instagram, we are part of the overall Fandom Podcast Network account. So you can find our Instagram there. And speaking of Apple Podcasts, Nathan, tell us about those Apple Podcast reviews.
Well, we love to get Apple Podcast reviews for a couple of reasons. One, we actually want to hear your feedback. We want to know if we're telling you the information that you want to hear. And anything that we can do better, we want to hear that too. But also, the podcast reviews help other people find us. So if you want to share your love for this podcast, Apple Podcast Review is a great way to do that. When I tried to sneak into D23 by pretending to be Dave Filoni, they told me we didn't have enough 5-star reviews for me to pull that off. So,
ouch.
That was the entirety of the security check. They ran your facial recognition through a 5-star review tracker, and they were like, "Get out of here!"
yeah, well, I mean, at first it popped up as Dave Filoni, and then it caught on to What a Piece of Junk. So, please, more 5-star reviews so that maybe next year we can be at D23.
Good times. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. And as Nathan says, hit us up with any comments or suggestions or reviews or anything that you want us to change. But until next time, please always remember to respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.